Hello, good evening. Um, to the Sipur Maisius learning session, where we're learning the story of the son of the king that was made of precious gems. So we'll just uh, first of all recap the story until now, then I'll bring up the text and we'll read through it and see what this actually according to the way I understand it, what it refers to. So there was a king who had no children, and he got the Jews to daven for him, and he gave an ultimatum. And they found a hidden tzaddik, and that tzaddik came to the king. The king spoke nicely to him. It's about it's in it as Teddy Roosevelt used to say, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." The king says, the Jews are in my hand to do what I want, so I'm asking you nicely. So he said, okay, you'll have a child. And he had a daughter, beautiful, the songs, this could speak on the languages, marvelous. People came from all over to look at him. But the king then wanted to have a son, because otherwise after him, the kingdom would go to a strange man and won't go to his offspring. So again, summons the Jews, but they don't find the old tzaddik. They found another tzaddik, another hidden tzaddik. And they bring to the king. The king tells them the same thing, they say that it's like the king tells him, I have no problem, if you want a loan, I can give you a loan. He says, do you want guarantors? He says, no, I don't need guarantors. I know where you live. In other words, I don't worry about that. I have my own ways of getting the Jews are in my hands. So he told him that he's going to have a son, and the son is going to be comprised of precious stones. And he took all the different stones, he pulverized them, put them in wine, he gave half to the king to drink, half to the queen to drink, and they drank it, and the queen, gave birth to a son, and the son was not comprised of precious stones. Just look up. Was a gorgeous boy, spoke all the languages, could play all the instruments, whatever it is, and kings from all over came to see him, but it was not made of precious stones. So we spoke about that, and the basic premise of this is that this is the Kodesh Baruch Hu, that he wants the world to be inhabited by people with das, with true das. So, because people that don't have true das, between good and bad, they're not really people. They're animals in people form. So he got the neshamas of the Jews to produce. It says a daughter. We said the daughter signifies the tzaddikim, the great tzaddikim that learn Torah, that sing and praise the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they do. They have people, and they get their people together, and their people have chaburas and the praise Hashem and so forth and so on. But the king wants something more. He wants a son. As Rabbeinu said, and there's a very famous song that was made out of it. Rabbeinu says, "Umnam atem anashim ksherim." It's true that you are Elohe people, you're kosher people. But that's not what I meant. That's not my goal. It says, what I wanted, that you should be like animals that are roaring in the forest all night long. With tremendous kisufim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what I want. This is not, you belong to a Hasidus, and you have a Rebbe, and you have Koilel, and you have this, and you have a Smedrish, and you have a Tish, and Baruch Hashem, and people get really excited and whatever. I'm talking about, the real tzaddikim, give an example, it doesn't matter, but you're real tzaddikim, real tzaddikim, not, we're not talking about fakers, chas v'chalil, we're talking about real tzaddikim. That's the daughter. The son is a tzaddik that can get people to connect the nekuda that is in their hearts and connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because when you connect the nekuda to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your nekuda to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you become bottled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You become filled with kisufin and longing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is where we're holding in the story. The son is born. King's coming to see him. Let's see what happens next. Here we go. So we said the queen gave birth to a son, and the king rejoiced very greatly. The son that was born was not made of precious stones. When he was 4 years old, he was extremely handsome and very wise in all the wisdoms, and knew all the languages. And kings traveled to see him. Up to now, this is the same thing as we saw about the daughter. He can do all the things the daughter can do. The princess saw that she was not that important, and she was jealous of him. Because a son is more important than a daughter. The only consolation was that the tzaddik had said that he would be completely, he would be comprised completely of precious stones. So consolation is good that at least he was not made of precious stones. Okay, so she had a Sashik says, okay, that's one blemish. He was supposed to be, he wasn't. Okay, so it's something that says once the prince was carving wood and he nicked his finger. The princess ran to bandage his finger and saw a precious stone there. And she was intensely jealous of him. She discovered that he really was comprised of precious stones. So let's take a look at what this is actually talking about. We said that when the prince was born, he was not made of precious stones. This is because a precious stone is, as we said the last time, is something that comes, where do you find a gem? Buried in the sand, it's or in mines, and when you see, an unpolished diamond, it looks like a dirty pebble. It's not it has to be polished, has to has to be worked on. It has to. It's only, it's like the very beginning when a person is born, you don't see precious stones in him. So you teach the child, the regular way, learn a lot of Torah and Tefillah and Saint HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and only then when he, as he grows up and he wants to get into Avodas Hashem, then the Yetzer Hara wakes up. Then he starts going through all kinds of trials and tribulations. Then he has to go through a way of Ischaskus. And when he goes through Ischaskus, then the tzaddik teaches him that there is an inyan of Nekudas Tovos, of Nekuda Tova. There's a good point about me, and every person needs to find his own Nekuda Tova. And on the other hand, it's the same thing applies to the tzaddik himself. Just 1 second. The same thing that applies to the tzaddik himself. That when you are searching for the tzaddik, you also don't see the precious stone, because the tzaddik is comprised completely of precious stones. When you look from the outside, you don't see no precious stones. You see, just okay, he's a tzaddik, but you don't see how is he different than all the other tzaddikim. So the fact that he says that he's different than all the tzaddikim. So you can see, that he's proficient in all the chokhmas, and the Torah, and languages, and the very same thing like in the daughter. But afterwards, as we said, when all these things go over him, when he gets wounded, and the jealousy starts, that's the time when the properties, the fact that he is comprised of precious stones becomes known. So as we said, when he was 4 years old, he was gorgeous, and he was wise in all the wisdoms, and knew all the languages, and the kings used to come and see him. And the daughter saw that she's not important anymore. So as we said, that the daughter of the king saw that she's not that important, because me'etzem ha'inyan, that as we said before, that the son is more important than the daughter, because the whole reason why the king wanted to have, children is that his kingdom will not, be transferred to somebody else, a stranger. That's the importance of a son. And this importance is because that he has, this preciousness and this gul of all the precious stones. That's why he's called a son. We'll learn, as Evan is the word stone, a gem, is Av Uben. The Zohar says that. So the daughter was jealous of him. Even though the daughter represents, she was a big tzaddikus, but she still fell to jealousy. The Maharsha writes in Maseches Oriyos at the end that even big tzaddikim fall into this midah of jealousy. How can that be? It says because there is teres emes. Teres emes is the soyis HaTorah. That's the pnimis HaTorah. And there is Pchinas Etz Chaim. It's the tree of life. Shekulo Toiv. It's completely good. There's no blemish in there. That's the madrega of a ben. The ben, as it says, nimshach mimay cha'av. Bas is something that holds in Pashtus Satira. Mind you, Pashtus Satira here means learning Kabbalah and Etz Chaim and Chassidus, but by them it's still begeder of Pashtus Satira, because the tzaddikim, the Rabchina's daughter, they don't even touch the inner lights in the Torah. Great tzaddikim, no Kabbalah, no can daven with kavanas, everything, but they still don't touch the pnimis Torah. And there, anybody who holds in that madrega, even though they're great tzaddikim, the midos are not completely purified. So when the midos are not purified, the original midos, the original spheres that were created, when the world was created, the primordial spheres, their blemish, their problem, their limitation was that they couldn't get along. Each sphere saw that it contradicts the other. The Chesed cannot get along with Gvura, because the opposites. They could get along with Tiferes, and Tiferes couldn't get with Hod. The Hod couldn't get along with. They were all one on top of the other. Each one has its own madrega. It cannot get along with the other. It's the side of, the Levana, the Chama, the Levana. In the beginning, they were both equal. The Levana says, it's impossible for two kings, to reign on the same throne. Then the Levana was constricted. This was Shvir Sakelim. The Oilim Atikon, the world of rectification, is now the spheres were arranged in a stature that was of three lines. You have the right and the left and the middle. So you have the Keser, which is the middle, you have the Chochmah, which is the right, and the Bina is the left. The Das is and the Keser are both in the middle. Sometimes you count the Keser, sometimes you count the Das. And then you have the Chesed in the right side, and the Gvura in the left side, and Tiferes is the middle. And that way there's a balance. The spheres balance each other. Now they're acting in concert. It's no longer, a show of 10 soloists. It becomes an orchestra. It becomes a partsof. It becomes a persona that has a grandfather, and a father, and a mother, and his son, and a daughter. There's a whole structure. There's no stira between one another. They're all complete the same thing. But this is when the midos are the way they're supposed to be. But because this is Mochen de Gadlus. Mochen de Gadlus is a consciousness that can encompass contradictions. We said this example many times, that a child recognizes sweet as good, and something that hurts as bad. A child cannot understand that an inoculation, which hurts, is good, and eating too much candy rots his teeth and is bad, because these are contradictions, and the mind of a child is constricted. It's called moichet de katnas, so it can coexist together. So this is the in of Bas. Bas is moichet de katnas. The moichet de katnas, you can learn Kabbalah, but the midas are not perfected yet. So from that, the daughter seems to see that there is a seeming contradiction between the Torah of the son and the Torah of the daughter. That caused the daughter, the tzaddikim, that are from an aspect of a daughter, to be jealous of the son. And really, in truth, there really is no steer. It's like in the Zohar, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chia, they were Megala Ilchas HaTorah. The Rashbi revealed in the Zohar how you awaken and you enlighten the light of Amunah in the Das Hashem, in the Avodas Hashem, in a true Das, in a complete Das. There's no steer between the two. It's absolutely obvious to anybody, that if you praise the greatness of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you're not belittling the greatness of Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Meir. I mean, it's obvious. When you're talking of Arizal, you're not belittling the greatness of the Ramak, the Meshech Dovero, or all the other great tzaddikim. Or when you're talking about the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbeinu HaKadosh, you're not belittling any other tzaddik. It's when the midas are not the way they're supposed to be, then there's jealousy. Because Rabbeinu says when the midas are not mesukan, there is a competition. When the midas are not the way it's supposed to be, that causes a competition. The midas cannot cooperate with one another. And therefore, it causes that one midah wants to overcome the other. That's the reason for illnesses. That's the reason for all the other things. When that person doesn't have a das shlema, a real complete das, an expanded consciousness, a das of a grown-up, it seems to him that there's a steer. I mean, it's either him or me. If he's the truth, then what about me? What does it make me? If I'm the truth, I mean, he couldn't be the truth. That causes jealousy. That causes killing. And as we'll see, that brings about all kinds of kishuf that doesn't come from the tzad of kedusha. All this is coming from the tzad of the daughter. But anybody, sorry, who cleaves himself in the light, of the Zohar Kodesh and the tzaddikim, the sitra of Eitz HaChaim, he can get out of all the nisyonos. As we say in the Zohar Kodesh, in B'lim of the Zohar, and the learning of the Zohar, Yifkun Yisrael Begalusa Mirachamim. Let's just take a quick look here in the text so we can continue on. Just 1 second. It says, once the prince was carving wood and he nicked his finger. The princess ran to bandage his finger and saw a precious stone there, and she was intensely jealous of him. The princess, as a result of that, the princess made herself sick. In other words, she feigned sickness. Many doctors came, but they were unable to heal her. Obviously, they were unable to, because she wasn't sick. So sorcerers were called. And the princess confided to one of them, one of the sorcerers, and revealed to him the truth, that she had made herself sick because of her jealousy, and asked him if he could cast a spell on someone to become a leper. That will cause him to become a leper. The sorcerer said, yes, it's possible. So the person asks him, but what if he gets another sorcerer to neutralize the spell so that he'll be healed? So the sorcerer said, if the object used to cast the spell is thrown into the water, it can no longer be neutralized. There is, so the son, the prince was cutting wood. What does the prince have got to cut woods? What's it got to do with it? His finger, and the boss wanted to bandage him. She saw there a precious stone and she became extremely jealous. The kavana is that the son was working on carving the Etz HaChaim. The Etz represents a tzaddik. In other words, he was working very hard to make a tzir de kedusha in his own nefesh. He was working on carving himself. And that's the thing that cut his finger. Because a tzaddik is somebody who's breaking his body with great effort, great toil, and tremendous mesiras nefesh in order to sanctify the midas, in order to elevate the midas. So his bechina of tzaddik will be revealed. By the way, this casts the whole inyan of being a tzaddik and becoming a tzaddik in a whole new light. You know, Reb Nosson speaks about the greatness of tzaddikim, in fact, the real great tzaddikim, which is not even possible, with a human mind to encompass, that greatness. How is it possible for a human being to get to be that way? So, I mean, as people say, he's just a human being, how can you say that he's all these incredible things that tzaddikim, the great tzaddikim, speak about themselves? How does it make sense? How did it come together? So Reb Nosson explains that the nekudas tzaddik is not something which is built out of addition. As we learn in Torah Chafalef, it's not something, it's not a seichel b'chinas achar that is built on what you made before. But rather, it's not addition, but rather subtraction. In other words, the neshama itself inside is a chelek elokah mima'al. It's pure godliness. Per definition, it has no limitations. The seichel that it receives is b'chinas kedem. It's a seichel that has no beginning and no end because it always exists. It has no limitations. As long as a person is in a body, there is b'chinas makiv, there is b'chinas pnimi. That as you're able to shed from you bad midas, the mekadosh yourself. If you notice, as we said, Torah Chafalef, the 7 candles are not to say what you're not supposed to say, and to have yiras shamayim, and to be careful of what you listen to and what you believe in, what you don't believe in, and be ready to be rebuked and admonished, and to guard your eyes not to see, close your eyes from seeing bad. These are all constrictions. These are all prohibitions, as it were. These are all subtractions. Really, what you do, you're subtracting the olam hazadika aspect of yourself. And what comes in is when you're carving wood, you're chiseling, you're chiseling off the gashmias from yourself, because the core of you is a tzaddik, which means the chelek elokam imal. You're one with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's no end. So the same thing. The tzaddik is somebody who is Moshe Nefesh completely. His entire Indian, this is what he does non-stop. But by every single person, it is like that. Meaning that through any kind of Mesiras Nefesh that you do, that reveals a precious stone by you. Even a little bit of Mesiras Nefesh, a little bit. Like here, he just hurt his finger. That's all he did. We didn't say he broke his body. He said his feet were cut off, chas v'chalila. We're not saying any of that. Just cut his finger. Like sleep a little less, eat with a little less taiva. I mean, you're drinking coffee you're drinking coffee with a spoon of sugar. Drink coffee with half a spoon of sugar. A little thing. All these inyanim are Mesiras Nefesh D'Kedusha. That reveals the precious gem. That already reveals the precious gem. And Anash always used to say that when he was cut, that blood came out. Blood came out. This is the purification of the coarse bloods that are in the person, that are not cleaned, are not purified. When those are removed, it reveals your essence of precious stones. As we said, in Teravav, when a person hears his derision and his shame, and he keeps quiet, with this, he's purifying the contaminated bloods in him. And that blood becomes what they call a shem nafal simon. Over there, Rabbeinu gives a mashal of geese that are fat, really fat, self-important geese. They're now walking around, full with averis, full with gaiva. And when they keep silent, when they're being derided, when they're being humiliated, that fat becomes oil, it becomes rivers of oil. And this rivers of oil denotes a kavod elakim, the godly honor. This is the keser. This is the precious stones. I want to touch on the kuda that Reb Nosson touches on. I saw they have a magazine, a Breslov magazine, that they have, at the end they have like a little kasha, in a shkafa, and they say, if you know an answer, go ahead and answer, send in a fax the answer that you have. And this edition, this volume's kasha was, how can I go in a way of ischaskos, besimcha, when I fell into a situation that I wasn't supposed to be in the first place. I'm not talking about like just a person who, goes to shul, doesn't have a cover. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about people that fall into Averis. They choose to fall into Averis. Or they think they choose to fall into Averis. And they keep on repeating it again, 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 again. What are you going to tell them? So the answer, I actually sent them an answer, but it's an answer that needs to be understood. I said, what do you mean that you're not supposed to be that madrega to begin with? Who told you that? But the Kodesh Baruch Hu, there's no b'diavad. But the Kodesh Baruch Hu b'diavad is also milchatchila. Rabbi Yitzhak Breiter, Shem Yikol Damo Zechat Tzaddik v'Kodesh Livrocha, said that when a person falls in Averis, he should know that Mishamayim, they are showing me what my true madrega is. I chose to do whatever it is that I chose to do. And I did whatever it is that I did. But still, Mishamayim, they made it so that I will fall in this Avera from my own choice. It's a very dakas dikahinian. I mean, if it's me, then the Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's the Kodesh Baruch Hu, then it's not me. Well, the thing is that Kodesh Baruch Hu is like the Mashal Rabbi Kaplan. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is like a chess grandmaster. If you play chess with him, you make any move that you choose to make, and he can still drive you to any point on the board that he wants to. It's a dava v'hipuchoi. But why is that so? The answer is, there's a fundamental kasha. We went on an exile. We went on Golos. And supposedly it makes absolutely no sense. When we were in Eretz Yisrael, we kept on doing Averis and Averis and Averis and Avodah Zarah and Taiva and Shfichas Damim and Avodah Zarah. And that's in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, we couldn't hack it. What chance do we have to hack it in Golos when we are mixed up with the Goyim? If in the king's palace, we're literally, as they say, stinking up the joint, excuse the expression, what chance do we stand in the Golos? Reb Nosson explains that the thing is that when we are outside of Eretz Yisrael, when a person falls into these very deep places, what's required of him is just a small thing. When a person falls into a very, very, very deep tumah, he would think, it's all about me. There are neshamas that are lost in that place which that person found himself, because he chose to do this avera and he fell there. And there are neshamas that fell there and they are locked under, lock in chains and locks for thousands of years. They have no way of getting out. When a Nishmas Yisrael, a neshama from Yisrael falls to that place, they cleave onto it. So the Kedushas Yisrael of that person that fell there. And if that person does just a little thing, in the koich of the true tzaddik, not only he gets himself out, but he also gets all the people that were held hostage in these dungeons where time is measured in millenniums, and set them free. Adrabah. The lower a person finds himself, not when he says, just I don't care, the heck with the whole thing, and then no. Truth of the matter is that a person can sometimes fall even to such a place. And after a while comes this idea in my mind, maybe I'll do something. Maybe I'll do something with Dusha. It's a very delicate Indian. You can't say, okay, go ahead. Just go do whatever you want, because you'll be rectifying the shamas wherever you go. You can choose whatever it is. Go ahead and have mac and cheese, or I don't know, whatever it is. מלכתחילה בוודאי not. בוודאי not. And the secret of it is that really we have two seemingly different concepts. One of them is called Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah, which means a descent that prepares you, that is there for the goal of coming up, of ascent. We have Nefila. Nefila is free fall. That's Rabbeinu is called Nofel B'daita. Boom, the mind fell, that's it. What's the difference between Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah and Nefila? What's the difference between the two? L'maisa? None. The only difference between the two is how you choose to take it. Nefila, in both cases, you're going down. You chose to go down. You made the choice, the conscious choice, to look where you're not supposed to look, to do what you're not supposed to do. And not only this, you're doing it again. You're repeating it over and over and over again. And what the heck am I doing? If you're looking at all this and you're saying, no matter how guilty I am, no matter how I'm the one who causes the whole thing, I'm the one, still, I'm going to get back to Kadosh Baruch Hu. If I can't do it now, I'll do it the next time. I'll do it the next time I fall again, or I'll do it the next time. That descent becomes a Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. But if you become a professor, a doctor, a maven about yourself, and you say, nah, that's it, I'm done for. There's no chance. That descent becomes an afila. As long as you hold yourself, you're leaning on the koich of the true tzaddik, even a small little thing. You just cut this finger, a small little thing will lift you up, will get you out of where, and as we will learn in Mitzvah Hashem, next Monday, when a lot of times, people that are in bad habits, in addictions, alcoholics and stuff like that, when they actually become clean, they expect the world to hold their coat and cheer them on. But instead, they get a 2x4 smack in the face. Huh? What is this? The answer is that now you're dealing with life. Until now, you ran away. Until now, you buried reality with alcohol or the other bad habits, they're interdicting. Now you are facing reality. We will learn about this in Yitzhak Hashem on next Monday night.